here. So I want to ask you a question. Do you relate to any of these words? How many of those? And like how many languages? 5. 6. 3, 4, 5. How many you can relate to that? Hello, assalamu alaikum. Good enough. You did better than I do. Okay, fine. So everyone can relate to this, though it's so different. And that's where we come with our, like even as simple as greeting each other in different languages and being able to relate to it with 6, 5, 4, 3, that makes us see the differences, but also can acknowledge it as well and can relate to it. So this is the hello in, I think, 15 different languages. And of course, in the world there are, we will know now how many, but we have a lot of languages, and language is one part of the nuance differences that we have here. Let's look at what is cultural nuance. Any idea? When you hear that word, cultural nuance, what comes to your mind?
The unsaid things in culture, the things that you don't say out loud, but it's just something that it's a given.
It's a given, something we don't say out loud. Great. What else comes to mind? Anything? Okay, I want to share with you how I look at cultural nuance. This is a very beautiful woven carpet. I don't know if you can relate. I've been working with groups on the borders between Pakistan and Afghanistan, and there are a huge community of women in Afghanistan on that borders, and also India, Pakistan, Afghanistan on that area, that they master this craft where they weave carpets. Of course, we can go down a bit to Iran, where also they master that. And these carpets are so valuable, so expensive, handmade, made with love. People, women weave it, and men, like women and men weave it. It's a traditional thing there, and then they carry it with love and passion and value. See how many colors are there? That's could be our differences, but also they can come into a canvas that is extremely beautiful, that can bring all these colors together on the same ground. So it could be the differences of our culture, language, religion, politics, socio-economic, anything. As you said, Armin, it could be unsaid or taken for granted. It could be something that we feel everyone know, but sometimes not really. We discover that they might not know, and we may need to educate them. But that's how I look at it. I look at it as a nice woven carpet with all these colors. Each piece is extremely unique. Each color is unique, but then it's all come together. If we look at it from an eye to understand it, to acknowledge it and embrace it, then it will have that final nice look. Okay, let's look at ourselves. And let's zoom in. See the components of cultural nuance. So when we zoom into our lives as a human, we have 3 components that we look there and we discover that where our nuance come from. Which is number 1, what we feel. Does anyone here feel less? They don't feel? Anyone think they have no feelings? No. Everyone has their own feelings. Then we take those feelings, which we call it the heart, and where what we feel, we always say feeling through the heart. We take it and then we process it. And this is our biggest processor, which is our brain, our mind. So we start the thinking process. So there is a feeling, a thinking, and then the combination of that translates into behavior, and that's how we act. And this is what we put together as a base for our differences on a human level. So there is no one that feels, thinks, and behaves the same. And that's what makes us as humans individually, it's okay, individually unique. So that's the first start when we talk about nuance. Let's look at it from an ecological perspective. This is me and the world, me as a human and the world around me. Let's see what affects cultural nuances. So my feel, think, and behave on a human level, it goes to a bit bigger circle where I have a family and religion. So these are two other factors to portray who I am within my smaller circle. Then I go bigger, and there's the bigger culture, the bigger politics out there, the political environment around me, and that's where I live, in the country, where I live with a culture. Some people come from different cultures in the same place, but that's what also makes it more visible to see that nuance or that differences, cultural differences. Then we look at the bigger thing, which is the rights, the laws, the policies around us. So I want to ask you a question. Does anyone here ever crossed a red light while, first, how many of us drives a car? Perfect. Have you ever crossed a red light intentionally? Why? Why you never crossed a red light? Breaking the rules.
I have, but not here.
Not here. Okay, that's great. That's really an awesome example. I'll tell you something. I was in Riyadh the past few days. And why I asked that question? Because two things. One is, while I'm living in the UAE, I will never even dare, other than being dangerous on other people, even if the street is totally empty, I will never dare to cross a red light because there is a law that governs my action. See the behavior here. When I feel like crossing the light because the street is empty, I think about it, I remember the law, so I act upon not being punished. See how that governs my action? So the difference between me and someone who is in Riyadh, like 2 days ago, I was in a street where, where the traffic light is flashing red only, no other color, but flashing red. I was driving the car there, and I just stood to understand what that signal means. Flashing red, I could see flashing orange, yellow, like slow down. But flashing red, that was the first time in my life. And then I went to the next traffic light where it's red, and it doesn't have any direction. So it's red, and you can park on any lane until it's green. But then someone is beeping and horning behind and the next car. I was like, what's wrong? And then someone told me, no, but here, if you're on the right lane, even if it's red, you can go right, it's fine. So really, that was so different than what I used to. I went there saying, I'm the champion, driving a car for the first time in Riyadh, but then counting how many things that I didn't do the way it should be done because I took it for granted. For me, a red light is a red light. I fully stop on that. For me, if there is no side right to go like alone, then you need to stop until it's green to go right. So see how we have all these things come together that govern how we think and act about it. And that's exactly what happens with our nuance. Because sometimes we think we know it, or we think it does not exist, but it's there, and sometimes we don't know it. The big thing around, which also inform, fortunately and unfortunately, our differences, but also it feeds into our similarities. One is the word crises, wars, and disasters. And that when something big like this happens somewhere, people would relate to it. It becomes a common ground. It becomes a circumstance that everyone knows about, everyone feels, lives. So even if we have other differences in the background, we still face a same situation together. Then we have social media. How many of you, I would say, do have an Instagram account? Of course, we were talking about how to market even your business on that, and now it's becoming one of the biggest marketing tools. Social media has been very much affecting our nuance in terms of understanding them, or in terms shifting us from what we learned, our smaller communities, to be accepting to different things, to be more into the melting pot. And that's where we go into globalization, we go into being exposed. Today, whoever thought that if kids dance in front of a screen could make money in the back end. A few days back, there was a meeting with influencers and creators in one of the social media apps. And the CEO was asking one of the women, like, oh, how did you become one of these influencers on social media? And she said, I was just recording the diaries of me and my helper at house and what we do every day. I was astonished and like really surprised of seeing how these influencers make money out of doing things that I will never thought that like it could be something that interests people. But with all these differences, the opportunity comes. So definitely if you have a product or a service that you can market and you can position, because of differences that we have among us, you will find someone that would be interested in what you're offering them. So here comes some of the opportunities. News and produced media content. How many of us looks at the news every day, know what happens on the other part of the world through the news, through the lens of the news? Unfortunately, sometimes these news inform our knowledge within their own bias. So if I stick to one channel, I look at one news outlet, then I maybe become aware of that, take that side, and then that another thing that could feed into me being more open and aware or taking stands based on what I'm exposed to. Thank you, Armin. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Oh, perfect. Awesome. How are you ladies today? Happy International Women's Day today and every day. We should celebrate ourselves, our achievements at all times. Today is an extra special day maybe to have more celebrations, but please, let's celebrate ourselves every day. So is the voice right? You can hear perfect. And indeed, sorry for that tone, but I'm not feeling well these 2 days, but I'll try my best to be as clear as possible. So let's take this in an informal way. My name is Lina, and I've been supporting entrepreneurs for the past almost 18 years. I've been born and raised in Jordan for a mixed background family. Then I worked with the United Nations. Then I went to the United States where I lived. I got my higher studies there, and then came back to this part of the world. And I've been seeing and witnessing all the steps of the journeys of startups and entrepreneurs. Of course, being a woman could add to the hard journey a bit of a harder bet, because as women we need to prove that first we're good enough to compete in the field we choose as a professional in that field, but also the spice on the top is because we're women we need to prove that we're doing it the best way possible. So throughout that journey, I decided 4 years ago in 2019 to practice what I used to preach, which supporting entrepreneurs, starting up their business, taking their idea to, from ideation to product, from product to market, from market to grow up and nurture in their fields. I decided to become an entrepreneur myself. And I started my own consulting company where it's a human-centric place where we work with people as a center of essence and with systems around it. We're specialized in social services and entrepreneurship. Today, I'm not here to talk about the company. I'm here to talk about a very dear to my heart. When Armin called me and said, we need someone to speak about exposure and travel. How many of us likes to travel? Perfect. So when you go and see other communities, that will inform your knowledge and will help you nurture more to understand these differences, will help you to see things in different perspectives. When I started my talk today with you ladies, I said I come from a mixed background. And by the way, for the first 18 years of my life, that created an identity crisis for me, because in my own country it was really hard to feel where do I belong. My dad comes from a totally different background than my mother. Both of them not originally from Jordan, but from other countries, but they both hold the nationality. So I'm born Jordanian. And it was really for me a struggle of identity. I am different. Where do I belong? And I was searching for people that they're same to me. But every time, even if I find people that have similar circumstances, there is something different between us. We're not 100% match. And then that's where I come to a realization where sometimes I need to accept as well and build on what I have and the different aspect that makes me unique than others. Of course, if we don't, and that's, I will come to this in a bit, because if we don't understand it, then we can't embrace it. And if we don't embrace it, we will not be able to grow within it. So this is an outlook to the world, because we're talking about localization and globalization in the sphere of nuance and differences. So these are each of the continents and how many people living there. And we are 8.1 billion people on this earth. Just the earth. I didn't count any other planets. No statistics yet there. We speak. That's a really important question. Sometimes when we market our product, then someone comes and say, what do you have? And we start explain what we have. I would advise that first we ask, say, okay, I have a skincare product, but tell me, what is your skincare routine? Tell me what are the things that you're looking for. And then you can build your marketing based on that. That's if you have a ready-made product. But if we're here today, sometimes ladies, by the way we display stuff makes a difference. Yes. The messages we send across. And me coming here saying all this pink, and can I give some feedback? It's about International Women's Day. I am someone, personally, I don't do blue and pink. Why? Because it attached to us, when it's pink, it's a no man's zone. So it's like I'm sending across a message to all males out there, this might not be of your interest. And same as when I use like blue or some masculine colors, it's like saying, don't come here. However, you can use it the reverse way. If you're targeted people to come, men, use something that would attract that group. If it's kids, use something to attract that group. So understand the psychology of your customers. That will help you. One of the opportunities you're in this country, it's diverse. So you will find someone who is interested in what you're doing. But the question is, do you know who these people are? You can't attract everyone. You can't. That's a mission impossible. It would be so diluted in the market. So just, you need to be aware who among all these 200 nationalities, people, categories you're targeting, and then that will help you better position what you have.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. My children want to give the gifts that they prepared.
Thank you.
So I want to call my son over now. He's been waiting to go home, but he wants to do this. My son, Ayan.
Ayan?
Yes.
Thank you, Ayan. Oh, you wrapped this? Thank you very much. You've been a better support to mommy for this event. Thank you.
Let's take a picture. There's...
Yeah.
Oh no, Amma.
Can I take a picture with you?
Yeah.
Thank you. So that's a great opportunity to feel that we're here in a local sphere that looks so global. So how much of exposure you as a business owner or as an entrepreneur you need to create of awareness to yourself to be able to go with what you have here. So let's look at nuance in business. What does that mean? How does that look like? How many of you have a small business or a company or running? Great. How many of you lead a team, have employees, a family? How many of you has a family? Okay, so when we talk about nuance, is about not only us, but also the other people. These are the parts of the puzzle. So here we're talking about understanding it from a business perspective. What does this mean? Number one, hierarchies. If we go to big corporates and we see how, there are the CEOs or the managers, then the middle managers, then the different departments, then the employees. So from a hierarchical perspective, nuance is a prevalent thing there because we're not the same on a professional level. Each one is on a different level. So that's something that could be considered nuance. Decision-making process. Who has the authority? How we take these decisions, based on what I take my decision. I can share with you an example, and I like to share life examples to make it simpler to people. So when you have, when you need to take a decision in a team, once I was sitting with a team and we were deciding if we wanna implement a certain project to go for it, which month and when to launch. And then my team members, I have different team members, some from the UK, States, and then I have some other team members from the UAE and the Arab world. And then our partners, which is based in London, another entity that we're partnering with, they send us the timeline. And they put something that should happen in a certain month. And I was like, no, stop. I was like, what? Why? And I said, look, I need to make a decision. You're proposing a training program, a very hectic training program, a trip to go to London with 12 entrepreneur women. It was at like a trade show for entrepreneurs during a holy month of Ramadan, where most of these women living in the UAE or Muslims will be fasting. So how convenient that would be. How can I come to take a decision to take people on a trip while I know, and they will not tell you no. And there's like, but they can object. And I said, oh, this is another thing you need to learn about the culture here. And I learned it in the hard way. And what is that culture? If you speak to local people in the UAE, Emiratis, they're too polite to say no to things, even if they don't like it. They're not confrontational, and that makes it a very beautiful element of their culture. But then I need to be triple considerate to make sure in different ways to understand if they like it or not. I would say an example happened with my team. I used to work in the United States, in New York. There, the professional culture is, the feedback is extremely important and it's straight to the point. So I didn't like the work of my team members. They submitted a report that is not up to the standard. I would tell them, look, this report is not where it should be. It needs to be improved, and this is not the best product that you can have. Feedback taken, action taken. Once here, I was speaking to my colleague and telling her, saying, look, this report really needs to be improved. It's not good enough to be submitted to the higher management, and a better work can be done. So please go and rework on it. The next day, my director called me and said, you're too tough on the girls, and why you don't like them? I said, why I don't like them? Who said, who am I to say I like, I don't like? I'll never tell a person I like you, I don't like you. We're humans. And I will never say this. And then the issue was, she interpreted what I said as, you are not good, and you don't know how to work, and she said my work is bad. And I said, no, let's take a step back. I said, the report is not good, not the human is not good. And then I learned it in a way that sometimes I need to rephrase and say it in a better way. So next time I said, look, I appreciate the efforts. This looks like you put a lot of effort in that. I think we can work together to a bit change some elements so it gives the message in a different way, a stronger way to the leadership to take it. And since that minute, and I was really, really surprised, because in a foreign culture, in the States or UK, when I was in that part of the world, they will never appreciate this way. They don't want you to go in circles. They need you to say it straightforward, and that's it. That's respect for them. In this culture, in the Arabic culture, respect is sugarcoating sometimes things, not lying, but just put it in a nice way to say it so they get the message. That's when it comes to decision making. Body language is similar. I was speaking to a friend of mine. She works with one of these big social media companies, and their CEO is Asian, from a country from Asia, and he has a very strong facial expressions, and every time they look at him, they feel that he's angry, and he doesn't look pleasant, he doesn't smile. And one day she said, he surprised me, and I said, why? She said, he smiled and he remembered our name. But then I was like, oh my God, if we are managers, or if we are marketing people, or if we're working in anything, how much our body language unintentionally could get across messages that are not real and not intentional. So we need to look at this because that also feeds into the differences and the nuance. Communication style, how I talk, and that I just highlighted the one with my colleague when I rephrased what I said. I said exactly that I send across the same message but in a different word. And the feedback, how we receive feedback. Some people take feedback really professionally, other people, sometimes feedback would really trigger and pick on their nerves.